Hey, what's going on, champs? I'm Aaron Deliosa. Welcome to an Immigrant's Life podcast, my podcast about immigrants and immigration and everything in between. Thank you for listening and downloading the show, and thank you for supporting my dad.
You know what we do here? Another week, another amazing life story of an amazing immigrant. Thank you for joining me every week. For the ones that haven't subscribed or followed yet, please go ahead and do so. And for the ones that are new here, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, at An Immigrant's Life. You can listen to the podcast through YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. As you might have noticed, that's not me on the introduction. That is my son. And since it's my birthday month, I'm giving you that as a gift, you might say. And I hope you like that. So, before we talk about the episode, last 12th of June, my beloved home country celebrated its Independence Day. So, I just want to give a belated Happy Independence Day to the Philippines. And I know some purists will say that it wasn't really the country's Independence Day, since we were colonized by America and Japan after that. And some would even say we are still not independent. And I understand your sentiment. However, for now, let me say Happy Independence Day to the Philippines, alright? Now, let's talk about this episode. I really enjoyed this conversation with our guest, not only because she's awesome, but also because we share the same sentiment of how much proud we are of our Filipino heritage. So, without further ado, let's get into the show! Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a web designer and a web developer. She doesn't only speak the language of love because she's engaged, but she also speaks the language of the future because she knows programming. Everyone, please welcome Jaye Mangahas.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I am Jaye Mangahas or Mangahas, whichever you prefer. I live in Toronto, Canada at the moment. I came from Manila, Philippines, and I moved here when I was about 8 years old. And as you mentioned, I am a designer and developer, currently working on creating my own company. The link will be here, I'm sure, when it's posted, but it's wonderlabs.com. And yeah, check me out when you get a chance if you ever need design or development work in the future.
Maybe I will check you out because I don't have a website for the podcast. I'm too lazy for that. But we'll talk about that later. So you mentioned that you were originally from the Philippines. Which part of the Philippines were you from?
I grew up in Caloocan City in Manila, and I also remember visiting Nueva Ecija pretty often. That's where my grandfather's farm was, so that was always, I have fun memories of being there, running around and smelling the pigs and...
I don't know about fun smelling the pigs, but...
It's one of those things I think you can't really forget, you know?
Mm-hmm. So your family moved to Canada. Was there someone who came first?
We were lucky because my father's siblings and his father, they were already here. So they helped us come over. And it was great because we already had our support system here. And we had a nice house to go to live in for a little bit. And yeah, we had all the support we needed. So we were actually the last of his side of the family to come to Canada.
Oh, okay. How many in the family, your initial family?
I have my sisters, 2 sisters, and my parents.
Oh, okay. So you guys are all girls?
3 girls, yes.
Poor dad, goddamn.
I know. I think they would have tried for a 4th if it was not for the fear of having a 4th girl. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so Filipino, don't you think? Like,
yeah, it is.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm talking about Filipinos in the Philippines that are struggling. They don't care if they struggle. They want that boy or they want that girl.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So Do you remember your early days going to school and or at least moving to Toronto?
I do, yeah, I do. I We lived in Richmond Hill
Mm.
at first, so that's where I spent about a year. And I remember I have a lot of good memories from that part of my childhood. Just getting to live with my cousins for a little bit and going to school together. It was really great. I think we were really fortunate to have that.
Hmm. And did you make friends easily?
I think I did. Yeah, I did have a lot of friends. It was, in the area that we were in, it was definitely majority white kids in my class. I
Oh,
had maybe one visibly Asian friend, and I think that was all I remember.
hmm.
Other than my cousins, they were the only other Filipinos I knew at the time.
Oh, okay. How about high school? How was high school for you?
High school was good. I had a little too much fun in high school. Um,
Tell us, please.
I Yeah, I definitely. I'm sure. Yeah, I stressed my parents out. I know that in high school. Um, but high school, I was in Toronto for high school, so I had a lot more Filipino friends around me.
Mm.
Um, but that's also where the comments of being whitewashed sort of became more frequent.
What do you mean whitewash?
Whitewash in the sense of, I guess, at least from what I understood at the time, I guess I had more similarities with my white friends than the Filipino ones, as far as, I guess, as far as how they perceived me at the time.
Mm. But where is the comment coming from? Is it coming from the Filipino side or from the
From
what?
the Filipinos, yeah. It was the Filipinos for sure. And it was the same actually friends that I had towards the end of elementary going into high school.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, they were the same group of people who sort of grew up with me, but yeah, it was always there. It was just this label of being whitewashed stayed with me throughout high school for sure.
And how did you think it affected you?
I think at the time, I mean, I know it caused me to feel sort of torn between groups of friends,
Mm.
feeling like I sort of had to side with the Filipinos or sit with the Filipinos for lunch as opposed to um, my white friends. It was an added pressure that I think was not necessary at the time because, I mean, being a teenager is already not so fun as
Yeah.
far as discovering yourself.
Yeah, I like that you said that the comment whitewash is coming from the Filipino side because that's so common.
Yeah.
Like you're just trying to fit in and I don't know, maybe they're jealous or maybe they want what you're doing and you're comfortable with yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't really know where it was coming from as far as just why. I mean, yeah, I just sort of brushed it off at the time. It was,
Mm.
I'm sorry, but this is, I guess, just how I am. And I like both of you guys, and I don't think I have to choose.
Yeah. I Obviously it's not the same, but I guess somehow kind of is. Remember back in the days there were like a division between hip hop and rock?
Yes. Yeah.
Like you cannot listen to both.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I remember I love music and I both love the genre. So what I used to do is when I'm with the rock friends, I listen to the rock. But if I'm with the hip hop people, I listen to hip hop. But I know, like you said, it's like I should have just listened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just music. It's funny because I was exactly the same as you, and in that sense, as far as especially with my Filipino friends, they love the hip hop, right? And
Hmm.
they loved specific genres more than others. So, but my dad, I grew up listening to rock music because of my dad.
Yeah.
So but definitely at that age, it was all about hip hop.
Or if you dress like with baggy shorts, you get beat up.
Yeah.
So stupid.
So silly, you know? Yeah.
And so you said you got in trouble. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. I skipped a lot of school, and I got in a lot of trouble for that. I used to, yeah, it was so bad. Actually, when I think about it, I used to like help my friends cut class by calling in like with a Filipino accent as their parents. And I would try to to try to get them out of school. And it went it carried on until I was, I think, in grade 11 or 12. And then they decided to bring my parents in one day, and they had a stack of signed notes that I had forged. Yeah, I mean, I was going through. I'm not really exact. I was just, I think I was rebelling, at the time, and it was just one of those things. I went to an all-girls Catholic school, so it was a little strict, and coming here at a young age and feeling a lot of pressure too as the eldest child in my family. I think it was just my way of rebelling at the time. And I'm glad it wasn't anything that caused, permanent damage down the road.
Exactly. So how was it growing up with immigrant parents?
Um, they work very hard. They work very hard, and I will always admire them for that. And um, I had my aunts and uncles, and I had my cousins, and I was very happy. I mean, I was a happy child. I was proud of my family, and just their work ethic. And um, I don't know, my culture was something I was always proud of, in the sense that we were honest and genuine people. And I noticed that from the beginning, that set us apart from different cultures. And yeah, I was proud of that. My parents worked hard, and they were hardly home when I was young, and it was okay for me and my sisters, and because we understood what they were doing, and we understood that it was all for us.
So did they explain it to you verbally?
Um, I don't think they did. I don't think they did, but my parents are not explainers by nature. It was everything is unspoken. I don't know if it's a typical Filipino thing, but we sort of just look at each other, and it's like, oh yeah, I love you too. I know you're proud, and I get it. I know. We don't say I'm sorry or anything like that, but we understand each other. And yeah, we knew it was so we could, get a better house, so we could go to university and do all of that. So yeah, we never complained. I don't think we ever really felt like, oh no, I wish they were home and spending more time with us, because when they were home, we had, movie nights with them, and everything was all about the family.
You never complained, you just cut classes.
Yeah. I guess they did suffer some consequences down the road for that, but yeah, I never blamed them for, all the work that they had to do at the time, and it was just normal for me.
Yeah. Have you ever reconciled with them about that? Not being there for you guys who were growing up?
Um, no, I can't say that, we really talked about it. It was just, like I said, an unspoken agreement at the time, and did their best to make up for it other times. We have our memories of our childhood, as far as my sisters and I, are very positive, and we have memories of sleeping in the living room all camped out together. We had our own beds. It's just, yeah, it was a good experience. I never really thought that it was anything that had to be discussed as an adult.
How about now?
Well, now, I mean, I understand what they did for us and I appreciate what they did for us. And I want to make sure I can repay what they've done for us, by making sure I can take care of them as they get older too. So um, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just the way it is and the way it was. And I'm kind of proud of that. Um, and as, having experienced that too, I know that I want to try to do things maybe a little bit differently, when I have my own kids. And even with my stepdaughter now, my soon to be stepdaughter, I want to make sure I get to spend some time with her, when I can, to make sure that it's not always all about work. But again, that privilege comes from my parents having worked so hard.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because they put in the groundwork.
Exactly. Yeah.
All you have to do is do a layup. Don't miss that shot.
Oh, yeah.
you know, and then whoever's the next generation, your stepdaughter, hopefully makes it better.
Yes. Yeah.
So, were your parents strict to you?
They were definitely a little more strict in the beginning, um, because everyone did things so differently over here. Kids were going to the park by themselves and getting to go out and do the sleepovers. And uh, yeah, they're definitely strict. There one time my mom came home to find that my sisters and I were not there. We had gone over to the park down the street,
Oh no.
and she was not happy. And yeah, we were definitely punished for that. And and as time went on, as the years went by, they got a little more, they became a little more understanding and loose as far as the rules were concerned.
Punishment? You mean somebody got hit?
No, the spanking stopped when I got to Canada. We were spanked
No.
times. Yeah, I don't know if you have done this in the Philippines. They used to do this thing where you would like kneel on your knees. Yeah.
I just talk about this.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
for it.
That's
But
so
explain, please explain.
So in the Philippines, and I remember my school doing this back there in Manila. If you did something and you were, yeah, as a punishment, they would have you go on your knees and raise your arms shoulder level, and usually they would put a book on the hands to weigh you down. It sounds so terrible, when you talk about it now, but yeah, that was something that happened. And my mom had never done this to us before we got to Canada. So it was strange that she decided to do it at that time, but I think it was all she could think of, So she just had us like kneel and yeah, do that for, it was probably a few minutes, but it felt like forever. And yeah, we made sure we never did that again.
Did you get punished if you dropped the book?
Um, we didn't get punished, but that was her first and only time ever doing that. So,
Oh,
you
okay.
know,
But
yeah.
in the Philippines, she used to hit you?
Um, yeah, my dad definitely spanked us in the Philippines. I know that. Um, Nothing too harsh, but yeah, I do remember that. I remember getting yelled at and then receiving a spanking, and then yeah, a few
Oh,
times. I think a few times.
getting yelled at is, yo, I'll take that any day, getting yelled at. You can yell at me any day, man. The spanking I hate, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was so normal, And I think for other Filipinos and even other cultures, when I talk to other friends, like my Italian friends, they were spanked too, and it was just common up until a certain age. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to, I guess, control a child.
yeah, yeah.
No one was like, there was no child psychology back then.
No, I know. Yeah, there wasn't, and I think there was just, yeah, now it's popular, right? How to raise your kids properly and how to not scream. I think we have a book here, it's Screen-Free Parenting, that never existed for, my parents. I know that.
You know what they're gonna do with that book? They're gonna burn that book and hit you with
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I think if I showed that to them, they would be just livid.
They'll look at you like, what is this?
Yeah, this is
And
it.
then hit you with it. Or
Exactly.
put it on your head so you go
Yeah,
kneel down.
exactly. Yeah. Oh man.
I know, like, I have two kids, and I tell them my stories when I was growing up and how much I got hit and all this stuff, and they cannot fathom the idea of getting hit because I don't hit, obviously.
Yeah.
I wish I could hit, but I can't. Like, when they look at you and they're like, in that fear and like
Yeah.
scared, I can't. Like.
Interesting that, like, why do you think that, even though it's something we were used to as kids, why do you think that we're almost incapable of it now that you're in that position?
Yeah, you're so right. Because I would answer is, well, I don't want it to transfer that pain to my kids. But wouldn't your parents feel the same? Should have felt the same thing?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't know. I never asked my parents about that. But my reasoning is, I know how painful it was physically and emotionally. How you felt like you were betrayed by your parents when you got hit.
Yeah.
You know, forget about the pain physically. I can take that any day, whatever. Who cares? But it's that emotional, that like, why are you doing this to me? I was just being a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
You know. How about you on your side? What's your opinion on that?
I definitely think it's also because we have more resources available to us, right? And I think that part of um, experiencing the Canadian lifestyle is sort of understanding and realizing that there's more ways than one to deal with a situation.
Hmm.
I don't think it was common at the time in the Philippines to stop and think and discuss what happened, and hear from your kids. Oh, like there wasn't time for that, right? Your parents worked, and if you frustrated them and you pushed a button, then you got spanked. That was it.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, the explanation I got was, because we love you, that's why we spank you.
Yeah, I think I heard that too. I think I heard that too. And maybe it was also because it was common there, and
Mhm.
maybe it's not as common here. Now there's a lot more thinking twice about what we do, right? And the consequences of that.
Yeah, and also you have to think of. I don't know if your family, but my family, we were poor.
Mm,
So there's a stress of are we gonna eat tomorrow, or there gonna be clothes that we're gonna be wearing, or you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah,
So that stress plus other things, they just like with that stress that they don't know how to handle because, like you said, there's no resources to how to handle it. They just
yeah.
put it on the kids.
That's true. I mean, yeah, that could have been the case for my parents. I know they were trying to work hard to get us to Canada, right? So
Mhm.
it could have just been that we got to Canada and a little bit of that stress was lifted. So there wasn't as much need to put anything on us, for things that we did wrong. There was more time to stop and think and breathe.
Exactly. You mentioned to me offline that you're proud of your family for being able to adapt to changes in Canada. What do you mean by that?
Well, after we moved here, there was a lot of, I guess, learning for all of us to do. Everything from how to raise your kids in this new environment to just personal changes that we all went through. Like I mentioned to you, my mom converted religions when I was a teenager. So
Mm.
that was a particularly hard time for my family. And
Why?
because my dad is Catholic and he's not a religious person, go to church every Sunday type of person, but um, I think it was just that shock that my mom decided to switch to a different religion and yeah, that was hard for him. That was a hard pill for him to swallow. And
Mm.
they got through it. I remember my aunt and uncle in particular coming over and helping them. And, again, they had the ability to sit down and talk and discuss and yeah, I just feel like it was a big moment of growth for the whole family because I know my dad was really upset about it. He didn't understand, but he sat down and took the time to understand it from my mom's perspective, as hard as that was, because this was probably a years long process.
Hmm. How did it affect you and your sisters?
It put us in that same position of feeling torn, you know. We were invited by my mom to go and see what that was like and to study that. And my dad was strictly against it. So
Mm.
there were times where we were going with my mom and my dad would be asking us not to go. But it was hard, do I make my mom happy or do I make my dad happy tonight?
Mm.
And why I'm so proud of them is because they eventually let us make that decision.
Mm.
You know, when I would tell my dad, well, I'd like to go check it out and see if it's for me, he understood. I'd have, some of the Jehovah's Witnesses coming to the house to teach me. And he just would go to his room and respect their privacy and let that happen. And even though as the years went on, I decided that it wasn't for me, my mom understood that as well.
Hmm.
So a lot of understanding on both their parts. And I don't think that comes easy for, a lot of people, but in particular, my parents growing up in the Philippines with that mindset of, change is hard. But mind you, they went through, one of the most difficult changes you could go through by coming to this country. So, I guess I shouldn't really be too surprised, but yeah, it was not an easy time for both of them and they got through it and also showed my sisters and I what it's like to figure out a solution together as a family instead of one person being upset and angry and deciding, oh, I'm going to go back to the Philippines. I'm done now. Because that's what my dad, and at a certain point, my dad was that close to, just, what, life is hard here. I think I'll just go back to the Philippines.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. And why do you think your mom changed religion? What pushed her?
I thought it was a sudden change at the time, but I've spoken to her about this a few times since, and she mentioned that she had actually explored it in the Philippines, which I didn't know. So that, gives me some insight to her decision-making process, that it wasn't just something sudden. It was something that she had thought about her whole life or, her whole adult life.
Mm.
And as she felt a sense of belonging with them, and I guess she agreed with how they perceived religion or just the world in general. So, yeah, I was happy because she seemed happier since joining them.
Mhm.
She seemed more fulfilled. And I think that was probably the most important thing to consider at the time.
Yeah. Do you think she was just looking for friends?
I would think that if my mom wasn't a social butterfly, my mom, she's very social and she's charismatic and she's an extrovert, so she loves talking to people. So I don't think that was really a problem. It's hard to understand. It was hard to understand for me because there were some things I just did not agree with, right? But I also am open-minded enough to understand that just because I don't see it this way, it doesn't mean that someone else can't believe with their whole heart and mind that something is a fact or is what is real.
Yeah, I agree. Filipinos, they're culturally adaptable. Why do you think we're very adaptable?
I think that Filipinos in general are really hard workers and they're dedicated and loyal people. But I think what makes them the most adaptable is their quest to sort of be better, like and do better for their families. And I think with Filipinos in particular, there's no negative bias as far as other cultures, and especially I think Canada and the States, they don't look at it like, oh, we're better than you, so I don't want to be like you. Like they sort of want to adapt and become better by learning, and I do think that sets them apart from other cultures who might look down on, just Western society and other societies.
Yeah, I have a theory about this. My theory is because we were conquered 3 times, and
Yeah,
because of that, we need to adapt, or else we're gonna get killed.
that's interesting because I was thinking about that as well. As far as just that impact that must have had on Filipinos just as a culture to have experienced that. Yeah, I definitely think impacts all of us and even generations later who didn't experience that. I do think that plays a huge role in that.
Yeah, you're right. I liked what you said about generation not experiencing that, because one time I was watching a documentary about the Japanese taking over the Philippines, and I was watching it with my dad. My dad's not that old, but he's like one generation away from that, right?
Yeah,
And he was getting mad. He was saying things about the Japanese that I didn't agree, and I kept on saying like, that's not true what you're saying. That they are not all that, you know.
yeah,
But he was just mad. He was just upset. Eventually, when a few days later, because I keep on thinking about it, I want to be fair to my dad. I want to be fair to the Japanese too.
yeah,
And I realized that he's close to that. He somehow getting the residual of the effect of the Japanese abuse to the Philippines,
yeah,
and it's close to his heart. It's not close to my heart because I'm the third generation.
yeah, yeah.
So I can see it from outside. He can't. He's inside there.
That's interesting.
You know.
Yeah.
So, does it bother you that Filipino food is not as famous as any Asian food?
Um, you know, it did for a little bit, but I don't know how it is in Montreal, but in Toronto, there's so many that have popped up. And I mean, I learned how to cook Filipino food in my 20s, and everyone's always asking for it, and I'm so proud of that because I, yeah, I do think it's delicious, but I, yeah, it's another thing to be proud of, right? As far as Filipinos go. And yeah, we're known for the food and we're known for the parties and the big trays of food, right?
Yeah. Every time we have a party, they're like, "There's so much food."
Yeah, yeah. You can, even if it's 10 people or 5 people coming to the house, you have to have the large trays of food, you
Exactly.
know?
And that's one thing. Like, yes, there are a lot of now restaurants that are popping up, but it's not popular you know what I mean? It's not in the zeitgeist that like Filipino food is good. And I always talk shit to my Chinese friends or Vietnamese friends, like, yo, your food are good, but not compared to our food, man. Our food is different because our food is Asian and European.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I always say that, it's a mixture of, especially the Spanish influence, right, on our food is something that, yeah, I talk about often. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I watch a lot of, the shows on Food Network, and I realize they don't highlight any Filipino foods really. They don't. That's true.
Yeah. Like the lumpia,
Yeah,
bro. Lumpia is better than Shanghai roll. Not even close, dude.
yeah, exactly. It's the number one thing I'm asked about is lumpia, right? So yeah, I don't know why they don't highlight that in shows. It's
Yeah.
always like the Thai food or Chinese, right? Never anything
Yeah.
Filipino.
Yeah. Or pancit.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Who doesn't love pancit?
Yeah, it's one of the most loved dishes.
But I think we need like a chef that like
That's
introduce
true.
it
Yeah.
and say, "Hey guys, this food is really good."
Yeah.
You know. So I mentioned that you are engaged. Your fiance, he's not Filipino, is he?
No, he was born in Canada and he is mixed. European, Scottish, Irish, and Jamaican actually. We just found that out. He did those DNA tests and he found out he was Jamaican.
How did your family take that? You dating, a different race, as they say.
They weren't surprised because that was all. I've only dated Canadian, I guess, guys. And I think it was sort of an expectation that I was just going to end up with a Canadian guy because yeah, I mean even my sisters or boyfriends have all been um Canadian
Never
and
Filipino?
no, not Filipino. Yeah, no Filipino boyfriends. And no, I've never been asked out by a Filipino guy, so it wasn't necessarily a choice. I never thought to myself, oh no, I'm not into Filipino guys. Just no one ever asked me, so it was just
You did a good choice. You know how Filipinos are.
yeah, yeah.
They're terrible.
Uh,
Yeah. So, is you being ethnically different from him, is it ever a problem?
I wouldn't say it was ever a problem. It was, there were things I had to sort of explain to him. Family dynamics, like he grew up very differently, but he also understood and really appreciates the way we sort of do things. And now he's so happy and he tells everyone, oh, get you a Filipino white girlfriend. And yeah, it's it's nice to be able to share my traditions and my beliefs and just be proud of my family with someone who also appreciates it the way he does.
Yeah, I agree. We love so hard,
Yes,
Filipinos.
yeah, yeah,
And if you love one of us, you have to love every one of us.
yes, exactly. Yeah, my whole family has to love you, and you have to love my whole family.
Exactly. And you know how we are. It's like, for the lack of a better word, we have that pack mentality.
Yes, yeah.
Is he okay with that? Because you know how Filipinos are. Sometimes we crosses the line.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great. I just, he knows to expect a big group of us, and it's just hard for him to remember everyone's names because there's so many, and he's like, oh, that's your cousin, right? Like, yeah, courtesy cousin, not the same kind of cousin as Chris, but you know, still he grew up with a family, so he's like a cousin, and he but he appreciates all of that, and he loves that we're so close knit.
Exactly. So you said you're a web designer, a web developer.
Yes, yeah.
Do you own your own company or do you work for a company?
I've been freelancing for a few years now, and I'm just making that transition. I'm actually in the middle of that transition. COVID sort of slowed everything down, but I'm, yeah, we're transitioning into a full blown development agency right now. So, yeah, at the moment, everything's still sort of getting finalized, but that is the goal for hopefully before the summer. Yeah.
I like that goal.
Thank you.
Work for yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, but you do what you got to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that's hard for, I think, even my parents to understand. Um, they have they have always had really high goals for me, and they wanted me to be like a computer scientist or something.
Not a
And
nurse?
no, not a nurse. I know, not a nurse. Yeah, I think we have that covered in the family. So
How many? Like 50 of you guys?
yeah, I think there's a couple of us. Yeah, there's a couple of us, but yeah, not a nurse. Surprisingly, I think they tried to get one of my sisters into that, but no.
Why do you think is that? Why Filipinos focus on nursing instead of being a doctor?
I actually don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know because I definitely think that, I mean, yeah, we're more than capable of becoming doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know because there's so many nurses, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you say Filipina and they
Yeah,
live in America, you
yeah,
know, like 95% of the time.
exactly. Yeah, I'd love for there to be more Filipina doctors.
Yeah.
That
You
would
know,
be great.
I think about this and what I think is because we love taking care of people.
Yes, yeah.
Doctor doesn't really take care of people. They walk in, they do their thing, then they leave.
Yeah, they're sort of viewed as, yeah, not caring so much, right, for people. And yeah, Filipinos especially are so known for taking care of their families and people. But I would love to see more Filipina doctors and
Yeah.
Filipino business owners. I think would be amazing.
Yeah, that too. Business owner. We're not business owners.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're not. I mean, I went to school for an economics degree, economics and urban planning, and I think I was on the path to becoming an accountant. But I mean, this is a good time as any to try. I've always loved being creative, and this career lets me be able to do that. And yeah, it wasn't easy going against, sort of what my parents had envisioned for me. But yeah, I mean, the goal is to achieve this and show them what I've been working on, show them that it was okay for me to not. I mean, I have a fallback, right? Worst case scenario, but yeah, there's not enough Filipino business owners, and it's
Yeah, I
unfortunate.
think that goes back to us being most Filipinos. We're not selfish people.
Yes, yeah,
We're very like, hey, how many food do you have there? I got some drinks here. Let's mix it together.
yeah, you're right, and it does take a certain mentality. I mean, it's hard, it's not easy, and there's a lot of things that um require a kind of thinking that I just don't think is inherent to Filipinos. Um, and I think a lot, even just what the resources that have helped me get to this point, um, sort of goes against like what I've learned from my family. My mom's always asked, even in the beginning of this phase, or sorry, in the early phases of starting my business, what are you going to do for like the pension and for insurance? Like, how is that going to work? And it's, I don't even know. I'm just trying to get this started to see,
Yeah.
you
They don't
know?
understand that. I remember when I started the podcast, my mom was like, "Are you gonna make money off of this thing?"
Yeah, that's the number one question, My fiance's starting his own business as well, and it's just how is he going to make money off of that?
Hmm.
Like, I don't know, the internet. There's so many ways, Mom. I'll explain to you one
Yeah,
day.
good luck explaining.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they'll just wait to see, the actual money that comes from it, right?
They're just worried.
Yeah, they just want to make sure, we're okay. And again, that's, I'm something I'm proud of is just that the fact that we all care so much about each other, that we're so invested, and we worry and, we question things, but the intention is pure and good.
Yeah, exactly. I tell that to the younger generation in my family, that they sometimes they say, "Oh, they mingle so much with my business," what I just tell them is the strength of our family is that we are so close
Yeah.
that if you have a problem, there'll be 50 people in your house in one phone call.
Yes. Yeah.
However, when you mess up, there will be 50 phone calls.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When I messed up in high school, I was embarrassed. But my whole family knew about it, right? And the first person my parents called was my aunt, and then my cousin knew. Before I knew it, my cousin was coming to pick me up, say, "Hey, what happened?" And yeah, everyone's all up in your business, right? But I don't know, it's crazy, and I'm sure it's crazy to a lot of other people, but it is a beautiful thing to have everyone care so intensely about each other.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much love that you feel.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish it was something that could be experienced by other people as well.
Like
Um,
if you go to a mall, if you see one Filipino, there'll be like 20 of them behind that person.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And every time we go to a mall, my dad always seems to know someone too.
Oh my God.
Uh, and
Yeah, that's my dad and my mom too. I hate it because I'm an introvert, I'm
yeah,
friendly, but I I pick and choose. But no,
yeah,
they don't care.
yeah. They don't. I know they don't care. It's everyone, and I sometimes I'm not even sure if they actually know the person, but it's like someone who grew up in the same province, the Philippines, and I'm like, wow, really? 50 years later, you still know this person? And
Kababayan.
yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to me that, I mean, that's, it showed me that it wasn't just my family, it's Filipino culture in general, to see that my dad still has yearly annual picnics with, friends that he knew from his childhood, and they all just happened to be in Toronto. It's cool that they all found their way back to each other and are in a way sort of recreating that community that they had.
Yeah, I like that word community.
Yeah.
We're good at that. That's our
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
You know. Yes, we're not gonna be business owners. We're not gonna help each other with that. But if you want food and drinks, come over.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that matters more than anything, right?
Exactly. So I think we're getting there. But do you have anything else to add to the discussion?
Um, Not really. I just want to give you kudos too. I think this is a great thing that you're doing. Especially at this time, just and not even in COVID, but in just this day and age where I just think getting to know each other and getting a peek into people's personal lives and things that happen to them, their own experiences. I think it's important, and I hope more people listen, and I hope that, this just gets bigger for you.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciated that. To be honest, I'm selfish. I just want to talk to cool people like you.
I think, and honestly, even if that was your primary motivation, I think what a better way to spend your time, There's no
Hmm.
better way to spend your time than doing that, because I just think talking to people and really listening it's what makes us better people in the end.
Yeah. And like the more I do the podcast is the more I realize like we're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. Wherever you came from, whether you grew up here or you grew up there. And that's the thing that even though I didn't get to, as unfortunate as it was that I didn't have as many Filipino friends growing up, the fact that I could share my experiences with other immigrants from other countries, and there was still a lot of similarities there. I find that was still helpful, even though I didn't um, have other Filipinos to relate to. I
Mhm.
just feel it's a shared experience to be an immigrant.
It is. Do you have any last remark before we close out?
Um, no, I think that's good. Yeah.
You good?
Yeah,
Again, Jay, thank you for doing the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Again, Miss Mangahas, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Del Yosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.